Okay, this is part 3 of lesson 7.3 and 4, and this is where we're going to use SOH to find angles. Now, in order to use SOH, you need to remember what SOH stands for. SOH stands for sine theta equals opposite. I'm just going to write O over hypotenuse. I'm going to write H. Cos theta equals A over H. That's the CAH, C-A-H. And tan theta equals O over A. Opposite over adjacent. Now, when you encounter a problem where you have the length of any two sides, it's possible to use trigonometry to find all of the angles. And you do that first by finding one angle. For every trig ratio, there's something called the inverse trig ratio, and we use the inverse trig ratio to find angles. The way you get the inverse ratio is you use the second function, or mode key, on your calculator. So if you look on my calculator, above the sine, cos, and tan buttons are these sine minus 1, cos minus 1, and tan minus 1. Those are the inverses. The inverse of sine is sine inverse. The minus 1 means inverse. The inverse of cos is cos inverse, and the inverse of tan is tan inverse. And the way that work is if you know the ratio, so if we say we had an opposite and a hypotenuse and we divided them, and we got 0.667, we could find the angle by doing sine inverse of 0.667. So let's try that in our calculator. The angle that gives you an opposite to hypotenuse ratio of 0.667 is shift sine 0.667, which is 41.8. So our unknown angle would be 41.8. If you want to find the cos ratio that gives you the angle that gives you a cos ratio of 0.667, well, we do cos inverse. And if you want to find the angle that gives you the tan ratio, you would do tan inverse. Let's type these in our calculator and see what we come up with. We get, oops, forgot to press cos inverse. Cos inverse 0.667, 48.2. And for tan inverse, 33.7. So that's how we can use our sine, cos, and tan inverse buttons to find angles. So how does this work with triangles? Well, here we go. We're going to do 3 examples, and we're going to follow 3 steps to solve. We're going to label the sides just like we did in the previous lesson. We're going to figure out whether we can use sine, cos, or tan, and then we're going to solve it. Same 3 steps. You ready? So here we go. Triangle ABC. Well, if we're talking about angle C, because we want to find angle C, our opposite side would be down here. Our hypotenuse side would be right here. And our adjacent side would be our leftover side, AC. So this time we know 2 sides. We know O and H. So based on SOH, TOA, the one with O and H in it is SO. And now you might be thinking, what if it's not one of these 3? It has to be. If you have 2 sides, there's no way you can pick 2 sides that it's not one of these ones. So let's write our sine ratio. Sine theta equals O over H. And now let's fill in what we know. The angle we're looking for is C, so I'm going to write C. The side O is 6, and the side H is 11. And now this is the easiest solved step in trigonometry because it doesn't matter what angle you're solving for in what triangle. If you have 2 sides, the solve is always the same. to find your angle, you just use the inverse. And we do of 6 divided by 11. So in our calculator, that would look like this. Second sine, 6 divided by 11. And we get 33.1. One decimal place, 33.1, it is. Now I called this angle C because the question said find C. If you used theta and you kept it as theta, that would be fine too, because it all is also labeled theta. There we have 33.1. Let's try another one. We have triangle STU. We want angle T, so we're looking from here. From here, if we label the triangle, opposite is the side across. Hypotenuse is the one across from the 90. And adjacent is the side that's left over. We know O and A. So if we're talking SOH, which ratio are we going to use? Well, we know O and A. So we are going to use TOA, or tan. Tan theta equals O over A. Fill in what we know. The angle we're talking about is T, capital letters for angles always. O is 4.5 and A is 6.5. So now if we want to find T, we just use tan inverse. Tan inverse of 4.5 over 6.5. Now you can use the fractions button on your calculator if you'd like, or you can just hit divide. Second tan, let's try the fraction button this time, 4.5 over 6.5. Now if you have an ABC button on your calculator, I'm not sure if it works if you put the ABC in the tan, but with my fraction button it should, and it does. 34.7. And to figure out how to finish these, what I would do is just work through this example, use your own calculator and figure out which way works best. Which way are you consistently getting the right answer? And there we have it, 34.7. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you with the last example, find angle M. Try following the steps, label the triangle from M, figure out whether it's sine, cos, or tan. We've already used sine and tan, so you can probably guess what the last one is, and solve for your angle using your inverse. Okay, that's it for part 3 of lesson 7.34. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.